So, in the next 6 minutes, I'm going to explain the most common mental disorders in a fast, clear way so you can finally tell them apart. So, let's jump right in. Have you ever looked at a list of mental disorders and thought, wait, how many of them are there? Anxiety, depression, ADHD, OCD, bipolar, personality disorders, and it just keeps going and going. It's an endless list of complicated labels. But what if I told you you can actually understand the big picture in mental health in just a few minutes? Not by memorizing everything, but by simplifying it. I'm going to break down every major category of mental disorders in a way that actually makes sense. And let's start with the foundation. First, what even is a mental disorder? Because this is where most people get confused. Everyone feels anxious sometimes. Everyone gets sad. Everyone has weird thoughts. But that's normal. A mental disorder is when those thoughts, feelings, or behaviors become so intense, so frequent, and so long-lasting that they start interfering with your daily life. So things like school, relationships, sleep, even your motivation, all are impacted. So the difference isn't what you feel. It's how much and how often you feel it. Now that we have got them down, let's break everything into small groups. First up is the anxiety-related disorders. This is one of the biggest categories. At its core, anxiety disorders are all about fear and worry going into overdrive. So that includes things like general anxiety disorder, constant, excessive worrying about everyday life. Panic disorder, sudden, intense panic attacks that feel overwhelming and physical. Social anxiety, fear of being judged or embarrassed in social situations. And phobias, extreme fear of things like heights, spiders, or in flying. The key idea here, your brain is trying to protect you, but it's not overreacting. Next, we move on to mood disorders. This category is all about emotions staying too low or swinging too much. The most well-known is depression. Depression isn't just a feeling sad. It's a deep, ongoing lack of energy, motivation, and interest in things you used to enjoy. Then there's bipolar disorder. This involves extreme mood swings between the low periods, similar to depression, and high periods called mania, where someone might feel overly energetic, impulsive, or invisible. So if anxiety disorders are about fear, mood disorders are about emotional highs and lows. Now let's talk about something people often misunderstand: OCD and related disorders. OCD, which stands for Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, and has two parts: obsessions, unwanted, intrusive thoughts, and compulsions, repetitive behaviors done to relieve anxiety. So for example, someone might have a fear of germs, which is the obsession. So they wash their hands over and over. That's the compulsion. So it's not about being organized or liking things clean. It's about feeling trapped in a loop for your brain that won't let you escape. Next category is neurodevelopmental disorders. These usually show up early in life and affect how brain develops. Most common ones are probably the ones you heard of. Things like ADHD, which has difficulty to focus, attention issues, and impulsive control. Then there's autism spectrum disorder, which affects communication, behavior, and social interaction in different ways for different people. These aren't illnesses in the same way as anxiety and depression. The differences is how the brain is wired. Now, let's talk about personality disorders. This is where things get a little more complex. Personality disorders are about long-term patterns in how someone thinks, feels, and relates to others. These patterns are deeply ingrained and can make relationships and self-image more difficult. So examples like borderline personality disorder, intense emotions, fear, abandonment, unstable relationship, or narcissistic personality disorder, an inflated sense of self-importance and the need for admiration. Avoidant personality disorder, extreme sensitivity to rejection and social withdrawal. The key differences here, these patterns are consistent over time, not just the temporary states. There are a few others in the category worth mentioning briefly. Eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia, which involve unhealthy eating, relationships with food, and body image. Trauma-related disorders, things like PTSD, where someone relives and reacts strongly to past traumatic experience. And then psychotic disorders like schizophrenia, which can involve hallucinations, losing touch with reality. Now, here's the most important part of this entire video. All of these disorders might seem completely different, but they all come down to one thing. Your brain is trying to cope, but struggling to do it in a healthy way. That's it. Different symptoms, different experiences, but the same core idea. And the understanding that makes mental health a lot less scary and a lot more human. So if you ever felt overwhelmed by all these labels, just remember this. You don't need to memorize everything. You just need to understand the patterns. Things like fear, mood, behavior, development, personality. And that's the big picture. Now check the pinned comment below for a cheat sheet on the mental disorders covered in this video. And share this video with someone who may find it useful, and I'll see you on the next one.